Welcome to Bridging of Ages. My name is Dan Mendelevitz. Today we're going to be talking about closing the loop. And we've talked a bit about intergenerational teams on various shows with our guests. And today we're going to look at bringing all that kind of information together that we've had an opportunity to talk to you about. And for those of you who follow our show, you have a lot of information to assimilate, and we're going to look today how to put that all together. So let's take a look at how we will close the loop. We've been talking about intergenerational teams and the power of intergenerational teams. And it's really time to just take all that information from those previous shows and assimilate it, put it together, collate it, so to help you use it in your business or your organization. Now, we've already talked about the routes to success. We know that the intergenerational teams are much more productive and innovative. So how can we incorporate this structure into our business and organizations? So today we want to talk about the power of those intergenerational teams and the information that you've learned from previous shows in order to put that together. So what have we learned? Mentorship flows both ways. We've looked at mentorship going forward. We've also looked at what we call reverse mentorship, where the junior partner is mentoring the other person who is more experienced and older. We've looked at how mixed teams will decide things better. They have that better flow. We've talked about that communication piece. And we've talked about where the real friction is coming from. It really is the norms and the way you have set your ways in your organization. And it's really not about age. So what we have learned is we have the opportunity to do better because of intergenerational teams. So how do we know it's working? So how we know it's working is we get the cross-generational collaboration and engagement. We've talked how we have to have that common way of communicating. You know, each person has their own style, different groups, different experience levels, all works very nicely. And we can utilize those different ways of communicating within those various groups, but we still have the central way to do it. So if we're building these kind of teams, our attrition among those really early a career and experienced colleagues starts to decrease because now they're working together and they're not moving on to other things, or you're not having to let them go. When you have this style of working, you can also, when a new person comes on board, that onboarding is accelerated because now you have people with various experience levels and different ages communicating and working with that person. Now they have a way to learn from various people and to come on board. It really brings them up quicker. You have a dynamic within your organization and your team that really accelerates that. So what's also important? You need to have that cross knowledge transfer. And why is that important? Because somebody might leave, somebody new could come in. Now you have a much better mechanism for retaining the brain trust within your company or organization. And as we've talked about before, it's been proven again and again with many studies that teams become more productive and innovative when they are intergenerational. And I know it just on the surface, you would go, well, why would this work? You know, they come from different backgrounds, they can't talk to each other. But it does work because of that, not instead of that. So you have that cost generation collaboration, your attrition is going down, experienced people are there, you retain your brain trust, that culture and brain trust within your organization is retained. So if for some reason somebody has to leave, you don't lose all of that. You know, there's a trend to just sort of peel off the older layer. They walk away with knowledge, with kind of the folklore of your company, of organization. Because if you think about it, the way people work, everybody invents these shortcuts in order to get their job done. Well, if you lose those subtleties, it becomes much harder to get the work done. The other thing that's important is now you have a team that reflects your customer base. So the varying people, you can now communicate them together. So let's take a look at where the loop is still open. So this is really taking a look at what we have to work at in order to make this intergenerational teamwork work better. So your practice lives in pockets. So we talked about how everybody finds a way to get their work done. And you need to be able to transfer that knowledge. This is the stuff that's not written down. How do you move that across? In a lot of organizations, the success just still depends on which manager you happen to work with, whether they're good at their job, not on how we operate. But if you have these cross-generational teams, you can increase the knowledge across the organization, the enterprise, and not have to just rely on individual managers all the time. Those managers also grow. And you're able to move out the micromanagers and the people that are stopping your progress because you find them much more quickly. We don't want the knowledge to just walk out the door. You have experienced people who will, when they leave, if you haven't captured what they experience, that folklore, that piece that's not written down, the other colleagues are now have that loss of knowledge. We lose the brain trust. We don't want to lose the brain trust. So when that knowledge walks out the door, or if you push it out the door, that is going to affect your productivity. It's going to affect your innovation. It's going to affect your bottom line. We measure activity, not health. So nobody has these shared signals. Nobody has this way of collaborating across ages. Then are you actually improving? Do you not want to have the knowledge of experienced people combined with the innovation and excitement of the younger ones? And not to say either group doesn't have both, but when you combine it, it raises all boats. So we really want to take a look at the things that are preventing us from doing this. So we don't want things just to be in little pockets depending on one particular manager. And we don't want our knowledge base to go walking out the door, whether we peel it off ourselves or they walk on their own because they don't feel right in your organization. And we're not looking at the health of our teams, the collaboration, if we're just looking at mere activity. So we have to look at how we're measuring things in order to make sure that works. So how can we close the loop on this? Let's look at closing the loop. As we've talked about in previous shows, two-way mentorship, but it has to be designed. So several organizations have this traditional mentorship. An older, more experienced person takes on a younger person that they pick out or is assigned to them. We don't really look at how we match them. We don't insist that information goes both ways. I don't know about you, but whenever I've been in a mentorship situation, whether it's been as the mentor or the mentee, if I don't find both of us learning, I don't think it's a success. We both have to be learning. We both have something to contribute. I have learned tons from my mentees, and I've learned tons from my mentors. But we agreed to collaborate. So we were really pairing that exchange in both directions. And we're matching real goals, not just job titles. So we're not looking at that power structure and the job titles. The job title is less important. What's important is what we're getting done. So we want to be inclusive. We want that collaboration to be normalized, to be inclusive. We want to agree on explicit things within our team, and we want to know how we communicate, and we want to have that common communication channel. And as we talked before, you may have a common Slack channel, you may text, you may have email, you may have a lot of things, but you have to have a feedback loop in order, and you have to find that you're communicating the same, and you need to check on that because sometimes, words mean different things to people with different experiences. We want to keep our knowledge continuing. That continuity is important. So if we don't capture what people already know, that expertise can leave the organization before you've had a chance to have it. And despite the fact that we like to think everything is written down and everything, it isn't. That's not how people do their work day to day. The reality of it is, a lot of it is that folklore of your company, your organization. So, as we've already talked, you have to have that shared language and recognition. It has to be built into your system. So, you have to think about how you're going to make that happen. It just doesn't happen organically. You, as a leader, are responsible for making that happen. Let's take a look at how we make it stick. We already know the payoffs. We ramp up newer talent quicker. Our teams are more engaged. We can visibly see that experience going back and forth. The technology fluency increases for those who have already keyed into some of it and those who are learning it. So it goes across as opposed to being this dichotomy of these things separated. And the relationships within the team are much better. They outlast just a single project. So now that you've had them together for this project, as a team, they're going to work much better on the next one, and the next one, and the next one. What else is really important in this regard? Sponsorship. You have to look at how the leader will take this on. What does that mean? What that means is the person who's in charge has to have buy-in, and the team needs to know that you have their back because they're going to make mistakes when they're first figuring this stuff out. Are you going to allow for those mistakes? Are you modeling the behavior that you're looking for? If you're an older boss, are you letting the younger ones know that what they have to say matters? If you're a younger boss, are you respecting the older employee? If this breaks down at the leadership point, it's never going to work. So I know we all like to have big hits, and we want things to happen quickly. And the speed of business kind of expects it. But what I suggest you do is let's pilot it first. Don't try to make it all happen in your organization or company at the same time. Start with one team or a couple teams. I would probably start with 2 or 3 teams so you can see what works. You have to purposely put them together to be mixed. Whoever's managing that team or project managing that team needs to understand what's important to you as the sponsor, as the leader. You need to have a way for them to report back to you. You need to check in yourself on the team members. They need to know that not only do you have the support, but you want to give them the resources in order to make this work. Resources are very important. Whenever I go into a consulting situation, depending on the organization, they all do it kind of differently. Some welcome you with open arms. Some treat you as a pariah. Some want you to be somewhere. Most of them want you somewhere in between. I would always tell them at the beginning, I will take on the responsibility, but you need to give me the authority to carry it out. Now, that doesn't mean I come in and be dictatorial and throw people out of my team and all that kind of stuff. That's not how I work. I become inclusive. I go in. I have the power to build a team, to have people understand that they have to cross-communicate, that the intergenerational aspect of it is going to be the most powerful piece. Now that we've gotten the pilot, we need to look at and do a postmortem. We need to take a look at how it worked and how good it's working. Find out what works, find out what doesn't work. Remember, this is iterative. It's not going to work the same forever, just like business never stays the same. Your organization never stays the same. Everything evolves. It evolves or it dies. So we have to always look at that. But let's take a look at what's working. Now we can standardize that across the organization. We can take those people who successfully did it and utilize them to help teach it to the rest of the organization. So that's really important. You have to determine how you are going to measure this. You need to track what's working. You need to track the collaboration health. So it's not just, is the project successful, but is the collaboration successful? Are you finding that they're communicating properly? Are you finding that some have kind of tuned out? Have you found that there's only 1 or 2 people who are doing all the work? We don't want to have that. It's not just activity. It's not just things happening. We have to adjust. So you can measure those pieces the way your organization is already measuring, and then you adjust. So you do a round, and it's similar to the idea of agile, where you just do it for a couple weeks, you take a look at how it's working, you adjust. You do it again, you adjust. Do a fixed time frame. 3 months, 4 months, we're going to do this for 3 or 4 months. We're going to do it this way, and it's going to work. And I, as a leader, am going to have your back. So if we take a look at that, it's important that we know the payoffs that we're looking for. We already know we got, a newer person can come in, ramp up quicker. You'll see the renewed engagement and the experienced colleagues working with the less experienced colleagues. The technology is going to flow back and forth. They're going to be teaching. They're going to be mentoring. They're going to be reverse mentoring. The relationships, when you're done, you'll see that come out the other end for the next project. The sponsor has to be there. You have to allocate resources and some of your own time. You have to be available as a leader to say, I'm going to help you make this work. Do your pilot. Once it's successful, do another one. Do a few of them. And then once you've standardized what's working and you know what isn't working so well, you can standardize that across your organization. And the whole time, just keep measuring, reiterating, taking a look, keeping the people involved. When they know that there's that feedback loop, not just within the team, but with the leadership, this thing's going to take off on you. It's going to be really powerful. So we've talked about, where the loop's still open. We've talked about closing the loop. And now we've talked about how to make it stick. So after a word from our sponsor, we're going to come back and take a look at some action items and tips that you can do in order to close the loop. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Bridging of Ages. My name is Dan Mendelevitz, and we are talking today about closing the loop. Let's take a look at the action items that you can do in order to accomplish this. Action item 1, sponsor it. So you as a leader are responsible for overseeing this. And what does sponsorship mean? It doesn't mean just in the traditional sense of sponsoring the project or the program. It means you are visibly involved. They know that you have your back. Because remember, you're doing this pilot in order to prove that intergenerational teams are going to be a great asset to your company or organization. So you as a leader, when you sponsor it, the team needs to visibly see you. They need to know that you have said, I've allocated some of my time, I've allocated resources to you as a team. This is your primary job now to make this work. Resource it. This ties as our second action item, resource it. This ties into the first action item, as we've said. Have you allocated the resources? Are you protecting that team? Are you protecting their resources? Are you protecting their time? Does the rest of the organization know that this pilot's going to run and we're going to figure out as an organization how this all works? So they have to be helped by you and others that you designate, but they also have to be left alone. That's hard because you want to see it work right away, but you got to give it the time. So you got to build into that project the resources that allow it. I've seen way too often where people get assigned something new, but they don't take anything away to give them the time to do it. They just add on and add on and add on. And then eventually your people burn out, especially your biggest players. So make sure that you resource it and you're protecting the time and for that pilot to succeed. Action item 3. Expect it. Do they know that you've bought into intergenerational collaboration? Do they know that you recognize that this is an asset to your organization? Remember, they're looking at you as a leader. So if you say, I expect it, and that age-driven teams are just, multi-generational teams are just more powerful. We know from various studies that they're more productive and more innovative, but they're different. Because we have those unconscious biases that we've talked about in previous shows that keep us from thinking about it. We put people into boxes. We have these artificial labels of 15 to 20 years of generations. But you can't substitute for experience, and you are gaining experience by the piloting this. So we want to design it in. We want to expect it, and your team needs to know that you expect it and you support it. This is all very valuable. So we take a look, our action items again. Action item 1, sponsor it. So you as a leader, or you got their back, you sponsored it, you're making sure that it's going to happen. Action item 2, resource it. So you have allocated the proper resources for the success of this project. You've protected your people within the organization from others pulling at them to try to take those resources away, because now you've encapsulated it and said, okay, I want to make this work because we need to know what's working so we can roll it out to the rest of the organization. So you got to resource it properly. Expecting. Action item 3, expect it. What does that mean? You need to show that you expect the outcome to be positive. You really think it's going to work. If you've listened to some of our earlier shows, you can understand how powerful intergenerational collaboration can be for your organization. It's the future. The demographics are moving you there, whether you like it or not. There's going to be less younger people in the workforce. The older people in the workforce are going to be working longer. They are assets. Don't look at them at liabilities. Look at them at assets. You can move them around. I can tell you from personal experience that a lot of us, as we get farther in our career, no longer need to be at that top tier. We want to do projects farther down. Allow us to slot into there because our experience can help your teams. So we have our action items. Let's take a look at our tip for today. Experience doesn't retire, it compounds. You cannot substitute for experience. But you can compound the various experiences and various experience levels on your team. And that builds everybody up. Because those of us who are older and have more experience learn from those who are just entering or have less experience, and it happens vice versa. It's extremely powerful. So let's close the loop. Let people know what you're expecting of them. I believe you will find that this powerful concept of intergenerational teams is going to help your organization and help your bottom line. So this has been Bridging of Ages. My name is Dan Mendelevitz. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can find the QR code in the corner. Invest in brain power, you'll brilliance.